Blessings. Hathor is here. We have brought forth several elements of earth energy. These includes water and wind. In addition to, we find there is no word in this vehicle's vocabulary to describe. We will say that the closest concept is earth, not as in Gaia, although it is of Gaia, but of the earth element. So wind, water, and earth elements have joined this conversation. And we will say that fire is in the background as well.
Is there kind of energy from the space as a fifth element?
The fifth element is often misunderstood. We would name it the ether, and we would bring up its connectivity nature as it helps, we would say, energize all the other elements.
Okay.
Does this make sense?
Yes, very much. Thank you.
Excellent.
Does Yafi have a desire to connect to one of the elements mentioned before at this moment?
Yes. We will recap this vehicle's deep connection to the earth, as you call Gaia, and all the elements that make up your earth. Before incarnating into a physical body on earth, this channel dove into the essence of the planet and merged with her energy. So her incarnation into the physical came through the consciousness essence of your planet. As a result, an intertwining has taken place, and this channel has, in a way, a merged essence with the earth elements. We would say that currently the wind is the element that is coming forth for her in her life, both in thought and practice. The wind has a force of movement. It can move as a catalyst for movement more than any of the other elements. In fact, the essence of movement is elemental to wind. Right now, there is a storm, metaphorical storm, sweeping by. like the fire, destruction is essential to the process of creation you are all a part of at this time. And destruction is the phase you are currently in. We hope this does not evoke fear in you, since, of course, it is not the purpose of this information. As you know, what you may call negative is merely a human perception. But in reality, in order for new to grow, some of the old must be washed away. All the elements are a part of this process. But currently, wind, which is the strongest mover, is in place.
How may Yafi use the element of the wind to help her during this time in her life right now?
So as we mentioned, the wind is the most forceful mover, and currently a lot of things are shaking and moving. It is the wind element that is a part of this process. Now, you may feel the force of the wind, but we also request that you feel the lightness of the wind. In other words, while things are shaking and moving and swirling and blowing away, you must allow a form of lightness to enter your heart. So you are able to not only adjust to the changes, but accept them with the least force of resistance. Currently, this is one of the biggest lessons and assistance you may get from the wind, as the more you're able to be swept away by the wind without kicking and screaming, without allowing fear to take over, the more you'll be able to go through these changes as swiftly and smoothly as possible.
Thank you.
We will mention that fear is at the base of many emotions, emotions that you may not necessarily associate with fear, such as guilt, which this vehicle has been experiencing lately. We will say, allow the emotions to wash through you, again, with least amount of resistance. Many of them are, we would say, typical for human composition, and therefore are unavoidable. In other words, you cannot be without the ego while in the body. But you may make the ego your friend by the path of least resistance. We hope this makes sense.
Yes, thank you. May I ask for myself what element might be present, or maybe an element that to help us in this current time that we can connect to?
For you,
Each
my
of us.
dear, you are currently connecting to the essence of the desert. It has its own composition and includes several of the essences we mentioned before, but the desert has its own personality, its own force. The desert seems empty of life, but in fact, it is teeming with life, especially smaller than your eyes can see on the molecular level. The desert is as occupied as your waters.
Thank you. I had a quick question and concern. Something that maybe our bodies might be fighting off against or need attention to at this time concerning like viruses and things like that.
We will say that your body has been surrounded and exposed to a high level of contaminants. Those include viruses and bacteria that have the potential to be harmful, but the potential, as it sounds, is merely a potential, since as long as your frequency is kept at a certain level, you will not be affected by these tiny beings. They will work with your body, in fact, to strengthen your body. There is a large misunderstanding of germs in your society as not only you can't avoid them. If you were to completely avoid them, you would cease to exist. Your physical body, of course, not your spirit, is currently exposed in her environment to many, many germs, bacteria, and virus particles. However, we encourage her to accept them as her friends as long as she maintains a good friend status with herself.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you would like to share with us?
We would just like to reiterate for both the importance of the wind at this time. You are both in this cycle, which is a larger cycle than your personal field, but you are both tapped into this specific trend in time. Allow changes to come and go as they please. Allow your emotions to come and go as they please. Be with them with the least path of resistance. You will rise to the top of this tornado. The least resistance, the higher and faster you will rise. And we will say that the view from the top is gorgeous.
Thank you so much.